So Laura, the last time that you and I talked, you had just given your notice. It was back in March of 2024, and here we are in early December, and you have, what, 10 days of work left? Something like that?
Yeah, I have until December 20th, and then I'm taking all of my remaining vacation time until early April, because that's how much vacation time I have.
Right. So this is all the vacation time you accrued in
Yes.
all the years that you worked at the
That I did not take vacation.
that you didn't take. So this is kind of the pinnacle, like the peak aspirational moment for many people who are on the FIRE path. We reached financial independence earlier in the year, and now you've given your notice and you're ready to retire early. So I guess I'm curious, because we don't often get to see people make this transition. So I'd like to, maybe just spend some time kind of talking about what it feels like for you to be in this moment right now.
Yeah, feels very emotional. I guess there's a lot of ups and downs, and they're very frequent. So on a daily basis, there's ups and downs that that's going to happen. But I think when you actually start emptying out your office and throwing things away, the frequency with which people stop you in the hallway and say nice things to you increases. And it's like, I wish people had said those nice things before I was leaving. But yeah, so that makes it a little bit harder. But then, other things make it easier as you see people proceeding at work with the same old, and I can go and listen. I listen to those meetings now from a whole different perspective. I'm not in the middle of it anymore. I'm kind of in the room at a faculty meeting, and everything they're talking about actually has no bearing on me at all anymore.
So you're kind of shrinking a little bit?
Well, there's kind of like, occasionally, if I do think of something I want to say, I will check myself first, because why am I even saying this? Like, if I'm saying something that I think is going to be useful to people moving forward, then great. So on the one hand, you're sort of like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to think about this anymore. This is just like, I hate these conversations, or something that used to annoy me. That makes me feel excited about retiring, because I think I can't wait to not have to listen to this anymore. But then other times I feel like I'm kind of disappearing in the back of the room.
Sure.
And so you start to get a glimpse of what that is going to feel like. But I feel most like that when I'm at work. So when I'm home and I'm doing other things, those feelings don't come up, because it's not as visceral as actually standing there, being in the room and gradually becoming part of the background, I guess.
Yeah, you had faculty retreat yesterday. This will be your last faculty retreat. So any stories from that? Yeah,
well, we had, like, once a year we have a half a day retreat. It's always in December. And I told people at work I don't want a retirement party, but I think people still want to say things.
Sure.
So I didn't know this was happening, but there were some talks that were being given, and a couple of people who I'm closer to decided to say some things about me at the end of their talks. So it kind of caught me off guard. Really nice things that made it impossible for me to say anything back, because I'm in front of everyone, and as soon as I start to want to say something, I start getting emotional, and I don't want to, lose it. And so that was nice. And then the director of research, who's my boss, at the end of the meeting stood up and said some nice things about me, and gave me a gift, which was an old book that used to belong to her mother, and it was very thoughtful. And she said enough to get me into tears, and then everybody was sort of waiting for me to say something, and I made an attempt to say something. I wanted to say, this has been such an outstanding place to work. I stayed there for so many years because it was an outstanding place.
Yeah, 23 years, right?
Yeah, I just grew so much more than I expected I ever would, and I always felt supported. If I had good ideas and I could get them funded, it was like, yeah, have at it, do what you want. And so having that much freedom in my job, and having so many people that I actually like as people to work with has been amazing. And I wished I could have said it as calmly as I'm saying it right now, but in the moment, with everyone staring at me, I just couldn't get it out. I was just a mess.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people would be looking at this, at your job and you leaving this position with all of those emotions and feelings and saying, well, why are you leaving then? Why have you chosen to do this? If that's truly how you feel, you've reached financial independence, why leave that?
Well, I think...
does it have you questioning?
No.
Am I really ready to do this?
It doesn't, because I think a friend of mine sent me an email and she told me that someone had said to her at some point, that you're making an authentic decision when it's hard, right? You have to say no to something in order to say yes to something else. And I feel blessed that I can leave on a high rather than waiting. I mean, I can see the trajectory I saw that my career was taking a certain trajectory, and I felt like, what's this going to look like in 5 years? I mean, there was a transition coming anyway. And I didn't want to linger. You can linger for a really long time in an academic lab. You can be the emeritus falling asleep, showing up and falling asleep during talks. And
sure.
I had been there long enough where people started to say things to me. I remember one time somebody said, "What, you can't leave. You're part of the woodwork here." I don't want to be part of the woodwork anywhere. So I'm not even sure. I think I had told myself I was still growing as a person because I was able to kind of change what science I was doing. But I think this really gives me the opportunity to truly make a change, to see what else I am besides this career that I've been doing for so long. So of course it's sad, and of course it's hard. And I think that means I'm leaving at the right time.
I think people who are on the fire path for so long look at this moment as this time of celebration. You should be jumping up and down. Is there any of that happening? I mean, I know you probably don't want to, well, you tell me. Are you jumping up and down at work at all, ever?
Not at work. I keep the jumping up and down inside at work just because I'm surrounded by people who either would like to do the same thing and can't.
Yes.
Or people who, me being excited is kind of a rejection of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think there's some people who, even if they financially could do it, they wouldn't step away because they're not at that point in their career right now. They feel so excited about what they're doing. And, I'm not going to get up in people's faces and do that kind of thing. I mean, there are some people who are having to close down their labs because of funding, not because, people who are great scientists not getting the funding that they need, and they want to be there and they want to keep their labs going. And here I am, with plenty of grants, just handing the grants over to other people and just leaving. Yeah. So it's very hard to be around. You don't want to be the person jumping up and down, discarding something that other people are working so hard to achieve for themselves.
Yeah. But also, for I think people in our audience who are on this path, who've set this as a defined goal, there is a part inside of me, and I'm asking you, oh, how many days do you have going? You're like, I don't know, I'm not even counting down. And I'm like, oh, you're not counting down? How could you not be counting down? And I think I'm witnessing maybe some of this struggle that you're having. Okay, am I really ready? Are you still questioning the decision at this late stage? Even because I hear that conflict. There is a part of this job that I don't want to leave. There's a part of that keeps me intellectually interested and engaged. Mm-hmm. And that part of it, I'm going to be sad to see go. But all the administrative stuff, you being done with performance reviews and all of the drudgery of that seems easy to let go. But there's a core kernel of you as a scientist that I think it's going to be hard to leave behind.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's why I don't really feel like on December 20th, I'm going to be jumping up and down.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be with mixed feelings. I think that's normal.
Yeah.
It means that I have had a job that I really care about. So that's great.
A lot of people refer to this as just less about retirement and more about graduation. I found comfort in that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Where you're
That's a good way to think about it.
Moving ahead, you don't frame leaving high school as this, you're leaving friends behind and leaving your old self in many ways behind, but you move into college with this excitement. And
and everybody celebrates it.
Celebrate it.
Yeah. And it would be nice if everybody, I think people at work don't know how to deal with it too, because I think people are saying things to me that are kind of sad, somebody said, when December 20th comes, I'm going to come to work the next day, and it's going to be the first day that I've walked into the lab where Laura Reinhold hasn't been there. And that's a sad thing for me to hear.
That's hard to hear.
Coming from a friend too.
Sure, yeah.
And I appreciate it, but at the same time, I wish it were more like a graduation where instead of handing me, a book on philosophy about how I should be thinking about my journey, give me a diploma, give me like a certificate, like, hey, you've achieved something, and we're all celebrating it, and we're happy that you've achieved this thing, and we're happy to see you.
Instead, it comes
not happy to see you go. That would
right.
sound wrong, but like, let's make it happy rather than like this. It's like this long goodbye. It's like everyone's so sad.
To be fair, you did make it a long goodbye. That is your own choosing, because you gave notice in March, and here we are in December, and you're leaving. So I want to ask you about that a little bit later. But it is interesting that people treat it with this that note of sadness and a little bit of judgment. This, like, I don't know, maybe you felt that early on, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's it's that must be nice thing. And like I said before, it's like must be nice from some people who are just trying to get their labs off the ground, and they like can't understand why I would just
walk away from
pack mine up. So I get that. And then there's must be nice, like, well,
I could never do that.
And then there's some people who are like, well, even if I could do that, a true scientist would never stop being a scientist. And that's just BS. I don't know. Maybe it might be true for some people, but, the old-fashioned days of the White Tower scientist where you actually have time to put your fingers to your temples and like, dream up, academic things. And like, it is not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like that generation of scientists, like you can't, very few people have that luxury, because all you're doing from one day to another is just trying to keep your head above water, trying to run a lab on an increasingly smaller and smaller NIH budget.
Yeah.
So, it's high stress, and the moments of time you have where you're really feeling effective and creative, there's fewer of them.
I can relate to that. And I think everyone who gets further into their career, unless you have the absolute ideal job, there are still many, many moments of drudgery, and your job is filled with commitments that you didn't necessarily put there willingly. So, and
I don't think for me, like, I don't know how much of my identity is tied up in being a scientist. I don't know if that's what it is. I think I think a big part of my identity is tied up in having something that is mine. That doesn't sound right. I guess I don't see it just as being a scientist. I guess I see a lot of it also as just building something from nothing that feels like it's mine, that I created.
I get that.
And, that is something I can do again. And, maybe I don't do it wearing a scientist hat. Mm-hmm. Maybe I do it wearing a different hat. And I don't know what that looks like yet. But I think that part is more me. But we'll see. I don't know.
You gave a pretty long period of notice from March to December. I'm presuming you faced various challenges in there. You mentioned people treating you maybe a little bit differently at the lab.
Yeah,
you're kind of on the sidelines.
Feeling a little left out, feeling left out of things. I guess that happens more often now than... I mean, the first few months that didn't happen at all, because everybody was just like, oh yeah, she's not leaving until next year. So, but I would say in the last couple months that's gotten more extreme. And then you start to think like, oh, so who is my friend here and who's just like work friend? Because when we don't have work to talk about anymore, there's some people I notice I just don't really have as many conversations with them because we're not really talking about work anymore. They're not coming to me anymore because I realize, oh, they're coming to me because they needed something from me, not because, and people come to you in a friendly way, but I mean, you figure out who those people are pretty quickly because they stop coming to you as soon as they realize that you can't provide them what they need.
No leverage there, yeah.
I guess so, yeah. And so that's been kind of interesting to see who kind of very quickly fell away, like who's not coming to my office door anymore. And I'm kind of sad because I think in some ways there were some people who I took to be my friends who I'm realizing maybe it's just, I don't want to say convenience, but it's just like proximity kind of friendship.
Transactional.
Like we're friends because we see each other every day,
Yep.
but we're not really going to see each other again.
Okay.
And so I see I can see much more now what it's going to be like not running into all these different people all day long.
Yeah.
And that is going to be hard for me, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to replace that.
Sure.
Even if it's just casual interactions, it doesn't have to be like deep friendships, but just seeing and interacting with different kinds of people through the day is something that I still am going to need, and I have to figure out.
How about any changes in financial mindset? Your paycheck is about to evaporate, and you always said to me that you tied a lot of value to being able to provide for the family, and I can relate to that personally. So have you, since we hit our FI number, has anything changed for you? Or has that been less significant than this idea of you turning off?
That's become way more significant once we hit, once you're like, okay, we hit our FI number, so we don't need income anymore. Whatever's coming in after this is like icing on the cake. So why do I still feel like when my paycheck stops coming in, I have to stop spending money? Like just the other day, I was like, oh, I can't buy this Avita conditioner anymore. It's way too expensive. And I went to I tried all these cheaper conditioners, because soon I'm not going to be getting a paycheck anymore, and I shouldn't be. And we've budgeted all this. Like we've done our budget 100 different ways, and like everything is budgeted in. And yet my monkey brain is saying, oh, get ready, because you're not going to be able to buy a cup of coffee at the coffee shop for,
Is there anything that I've done to make you feel that way, or is that an internal
No, I just
processing?
think it's when your paycheck stops, you tighten up your purse strings, and it's just kind of like a weird visceral thing, and I have to stop myself and say, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's in the budget.
Yeah.
So just because I'm not getting a paycheck doesn't mean, and I think I was always kind of like spendy anyway. So the way that I adjusted for that was like, well, if I just make as much as possible, it's okay for me to be a little bit spendy, and I don't have to worry about it. And now I'm like, oh, I still have this feeling of like, I'm not going to like not having a paycheck coming in. I am not going to like it. I think I'm not going to feel useful to myself in the world when I don't have a paycheck coming in.
Yeah. Do you feel like helping out with the business, being assimilated into the business, is that changed that feeling at all, or it doesn't feel like yours?
This has been in kind of a changing topic for us. So like when we originally started talking about retirement, we were both going to retire,
right,
and we weren't going to worry about the business. And then we made the decision we're going to keep the business going for a number of good reasons, including healthcare reasons. And now it's like, when you ask me, oh, are you going to feel any sense of ownership when the business makes money since you're contributing to it? I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. Yeah. I don't know. Because I feel like I'm contributing in a very sort of gopher junior kind of way. Like I'm not creatively contributing to the business. And so I don't know. I don't know how that's going to feel. Maybe you need to just write me a paycheck. Write me a paycheck that would be like equivalent to the crappy work that I do for 10 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Wow, that's... I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't know.
Clearly, we still have work to do in this negotiation.
How do you feel about it? Because we're transitioning into a point where we don't need to have the business. We're not maximizing how much the business could possibly make. We're you're not going to be working towards that anymore.
Right. I have a changing attitude.
How do you feel about money now?
It's still a thing. I still have a lot of interest in the idea of entrepreneurship, which is tied to earning money, earning income. Mm-hmm. And I find there's a game to that I really enjoy. I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of that. And I see the business that we've created, and whether or not you see yourself as a direct contributor, you have helped me in so many ways. And I know you don't feel creatively, but you actually have had creative contributions to the business. But I see it as an asset in the way that, real estate is an asset, our portfolio is an asset. Mm-hmm. And I think it needs minding, but I don't think it needs a lot of active time investment on both of our parts, and I can see how you wouldn't feel ownership of that. I was expecting that you might feel more ownership of it, but
it's too soon.
It's too soon, and we don't actually know what running that together is going to look like. Because what I don't want it to do is just become another job for both of us. I have changing feelings about it, especially in the past year, just knowing how much work we've had to put into it to get out of it what we wanted and what we needed. But I know now that I'm not willing to do those same things. Mm-hmm. I don't get the same creative outputs out of it. And I'd rather take some of the money commitment off of it, the need for it to earn, relieve some of that strain, and then just say, well, what can I do with this creatively that's not tied to making money?
When do you think you'll start to feel less pressure about how much it brings in? Because we just had a promotion and it was, we're already at our FI number, but you seemed very pressured by how much it was, how well it was doing. And then when it wasn't meeting your expectation, you were pretty, it bothered you. So, and I thought, well, why is it bothering you? Because we already are at our FI number. So if it makes half as much or a quarter as much, who cares?
It bothered me because I put a lot of time into it. And I think when I don't see that time being repaid in a way that meets my expectations, then I think I've just wasted my time. And time is the most valuable thing you and I have right now. And so moving forward, I wouldn't want to spend that kind of time to have a high expectation out of it, because we don't need it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather spend that time investigating trips and thinking about other projects that you and I could do, or, finding a new place to live. Mm-hmm. To me, that time is better spent elsewhere. And I think that's maybe some of my changing attitudes toward the business. It doesn't mean in the same way that when your paycheck shuts off that I still have a feeling about what I think the business should make every month. And I know that's got to change. Yes. And I'm hoping you and I can be partners in that. Because I think maybe what I'm leaning on you more for the business now is just this idea of, navigating this transition. Because I'm making a different kind of transition than you are. And I need help doing that. I don't have this big group of colleagues. When this business closes, we're going to walk out that door and shut the lights off, and that's going to be it. There's going to be none of this people saying goodbye or anything. It's just. Yeah.
I know, it's weird.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. You hear this trading time for dollars phrase in the FI community, and one of the things that we are all trying to move away from is trading our time for dollars, right? And that's something that I thought about recently as I'm seeing like my last paycheck is coming in a few months. It's interesting how you value your time, because you've been working, many people are working since the age of 18 or even earlier, right? Where somebody is valuing your time and saying, okay, we think your time is worth this much. And so you start to believe that your time is worth whatever someone's willing to pay you for your time. And it's very weird to step away from that exchange where I have to value my own time now. And of course, philosophically, you can say, of course my time's valuable. Like, I can't spend this minute in any other way again. Like, as soon as the minute passes, it's gone forever. So what could be more valuable than that? But at the same time, it's not that tangible. You have to keep reminding yourself, like, no, this is valuable right now. I'm healthy and 51 and happy, family's happy, everything's great. Like, I have to value this more than any amount of money. And it's so weird to have to hold those two thoughts of like, oh, no one's going to be paying me for my time. And my time is invaluable. Like, my time was always worth more than whatever anyone would pay me for it. But it's so strange not to have somebody saying, hey, you're worth something. Here it is in some dollar amount. Like, it's just such a tangible thing.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It's a great insight to have. It's also, I think, I heard somebody talking about their portfolio as being representative of this bank full of, it's a bank of time, essentially. You've given your time to a previous employer or clients or whatever else you've done, and we've put it in this place. And now it's time to start drawing from that. And I don't know how you feel, but looking at my parents and, as they age, looking at our kids as they grow up, time is so precious. And just to keep banking it in the form of dollars, it's time to really start drawing that down.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's a weird switch to flick. The saving to spending muscle they're very different.
Yeah.
They're very different muscles.
Very different.
And we're finding that out now, I think. And
Yeah.
when the business goes away, maybe that's why I'm holding on to the business a little bit, because that's my paycheck. That's my,
It's your paycheck. It's also your identity too.
yeah.
So who are you going to be without the business?
And last year, if, Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion was X, and this year promotion is, 0.75X, and I'm looking at those two things going, well, I spent the same amount of time. So now someone's telling me my time is worth less.
Yeah. And then by extension, you take that very personally.
Oh yeah.
Like I am worth less now. So
yeah, it's a weird thing.
That's something that I think, I don't know if other people
And to your
struggle
point,
with that, but that's exactly how we're going to feel.
Yeah.
And, while we're jumping up and down, having this great celebration that we're like entering into retirement, there's also this, like, there's a sense of hesitation, because you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm ever going to have this figured out.
Yeah.
But, I was, you came into this world by yourself, right? And you didn't have a job, and, you developed into a person, and you're always still developing in who you are. And this is just another transition to now navigate.
Yeah.
And I just think it takes time. Yeah. Someone at work came to me and she said, after you're done with your long vacation, let me know and you can come back, and, there'll be a place here for you. And which is really nice, but it also reminded me that, like, there is a sense of, like, I definitely have felt burnt out, and I think people do feel burnt out when they have the kinds of jobs that we have, and you've been trying to save money so that you can retire early. And I was definitely like, I could not wait to finally get to that number and then give my notice. And I definitely still need that time. Like, I do want to have a vacation. Like,
You want to decompress.
I want to decompress, and it's already started, and that's something that I've been really appreciating the past. I know I gave a very long notice, but in the past month or two, as meetings have moved off my calendar, like you see me, I'm like rolling into work at 9:30, because I don't have to be there early for a meeting, and so I'm taking my time. I drink my coffee, I go to work, and now I have all this open time, and I'm just focusing on like writing papers. And I don't have to deal with all the other things that would interrupt me all day long. And at the end of the day, I feel like I've accomplished something on the things that I really care about, rather than dealing with all the other things that distract me from the things I care about. So having that time open up is great. And I think also moving into a period of what we called hedonism previously, whatever you want to call it, just vacation. I definitely need that. I definitely will I'm craving that free time very much right now. And, I don't crave jumping into the next project. And in fact, I don't like it when people ask me, so what are you doing?
Oh God, I have to take that off my list here of questions then.
Yeah, take it off the list. Because I don't have a satisfying answer. I'm starting to give people jokey answers. Like,
oh, really? Like what?
Yesterday, somebody asked me that, and I was like, well, I'm probably going to take a bunch of edibles and sit and stare at trees, listen to PJ Harvey. I was just like, what do you want me to say? I am decompressing, and I don't need more pressure now to okay, how about more pressure? It's like somebody asking me what your next grant is. I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want to have to answer to anybody about what my next project is going to be. And even if I have a project, I don't even know if I want to tell people about it, because then people have expectations like, well, what do you have to show for it? It's like, just leave me alone. Yeah. Maybe it will change, but how I feel right now is I'm just happy to have a break.
I sometimes test the waters a little bit. I start to ask that question. I kind of dip my toes in on the side a little bit, and I can see you just get your back up.
I don't know why.
Bristle.
Why is it so important to you that I have a project?
I think it's, I'm not saying it's right, but I think it's in the same way that someone holds a mirror up, when you're telling someone they're retiring, it's like holding a mirror up to them. They're looking at themselves, and it's like, this is what I would need. And so if I need it, you must need it too.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, I don't need it. And you keep saying that.
Maybe I do need it at some point, but right now it's not what I need.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I think some people make me feel kind of badly about it. Like, I should, like I owe it to the world to be doing something, to be giving to the world, and it's like that. I appreciate that sentiment, and I probably will. I'm not going to not give back to the world in some way, but I don't need to answer to that right now.
Yeah. What's the thing that's most exciting for this next phase? What are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to time freedom. I've always been a person who has had a hard time keeping schedules. Like my whole life, it's been very difficult for me to like make it to appointments on time. Like I have always hated being attached to the clock during the day. And I obviously adjusted to that fine, but like I just want to have unscheduled open time.
Okay.
And that is what I'm looking forward to. One of the things. Another thing is traveling. We have a lot of trips planned this year, and I'm excited about taking those trips with you.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
And and travel. I'm looking forward to travel being something more than just this like rushed thing that we do for a week.
Yeah.
It's just living our life in a way that we're just experiencing things on a slower pace.
We're gonna have to work at that too. I can already feel it.
Or even if it's a fast pace. I mean, but we'll experience a lot. But I don't know. Like I wake up naturally at 6:30 if I go to bed at 10, and if I don't have to set an alarm for that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at, except to say that on vacation, it doesn't bother me getting up early and doing lots of things during the day. Like
we like doing.
I like to be active. I like to.
Yeah, me too.
I like to be physically active. I like to fit a lot of things in. But to me, that is kind of fun time. It's like open time, and if we don't make something, or it's flexible.
There's this notion too that we can come back. There feels like there's a lot more space. I feel less of a pressure to say, okay, we're planning a trip right now where there's lots of different options, and one of the options is significantly more time consuming and probably isn't going to work for what we're doing. And so the freedom I feel in just saying we're not going to do it this time is just to know that we can come back.
Yeah.
I haven't felt that before,
yeah.
and that feels like something that I'm getting a glimpse of that I would really appreciate.
Me too. You don't feel so pushed to squeeze in absolutely everything because you may never get a chance to do this again.
What do you hope our adult children will take away from your decision to retire early? Because I've been thinking about this.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it too, because our younger son is interested in a very similar career to what I do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to send the message to him that I'm doing this because it's a sucky career, because he's seeing me, he's got professors who are older than me who are doing this career. And so I don't know if he thinks to himself, oh, maybe this isn't so great because if it were, my mom would still be doing it. I feel like I want to be a role model for him in terms of being a scientist, but I also want to be a role model for him in terms of being happy in your life, and I think, I hope that what both of the kids get from us is that we have, with good planning, that you can live a really rich life, to use Ramit Sethi's book title, but I'm not trying to be trite, I guess, about it. Yeah. I just hope that what they see is that we are pursuing what makes us happy, and I hope that inspires them. I hope that what they learn from us is how to be financially, informed. I think being well educated about personal finance is something that we grew into over time, and I think we both wish that we had understood a lot of these things a lot earlier in our lives. So I hope that we try to talk to them about it as much as we can, and they're not always wanting to listen yet, but I do hope that they learn that from us. I hope they don't feel that, like we see other parents, we were talking about this earlier, other parents continue to work because you decide like what you want to provide financially for your kids, and that's not always the same as when our kids look to their friends and what their friends' parents are choosing to do financially for their kids.
Right.
And if we are drawing the line on things like about how much we're willing to support them, like do we buy them a brand new car or a used car? Do we buy them a car at all? Do we pay their auto insurance? How much do we contribute to college?
Yeah, what's life support look like?
It's hard to say no to your kid when you're sitting here saying, oh, but we just saved all this money so that we can retire early. No, we're not going to give you more than this amount of money for your college. Like I feel sometimes both of us have had our parents sacrificed quite a lot for us.
They made different choices.
And we are committed to helping our kids as much as we can too, but we draw a line somewhere. It's not unlimited. And I hope that they don't feel like when they're feeling the pain of not having any money, which they should feel, I hope that they don't have a voice in the back of their head saying, oh, must be nice, Mom and Dad, you get to retire early and go off to Japan. And I'm sitting here with $10 in my pocket and I got to get a job at Walmart. But yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So I hope that they understand that. I think they do.
I mean, the value of hard work, that would be the thing that I would want them to take away. And I think that you and I have, been good examples of that. And also smart financial planning and, the value of an education, I think for us has been huge. The value of starting a business, I'd want to pass that on because that's that's played a pretty pivotal role in our financial journey.
That's right.
But yeah, I wouldn't want them to see this as a lazy decision, which I have some fear of that. I don't want them to think that I'm being lazy.
Do you think that you're being lazy?
I mean, I could always work harder. I could always put more time into the business, but
to what end?
Yeah, to what end? It's just, it's just sacrificing time that we don't have for money that we don't need. And
do you think that you're the kind of person that if you are idle, that you feel guilty?
Oh yes, that's been programmed into me since a very young age by my mother. So yes, that's where that comes from.
I don't think sometimes you put those ideas onto other people, like maybe the fact that you're worried that the kids might think that we're being lazy really comes from a different place than them actually ever saying anything.
Yeah.
I think our kids see us working really hard, even when we're not actually working at our jobs. We work hard in everything we do, I think, and I think they see that.
I think some of that judgment comes from other people. I've heard it from other people. Just, that's a criticism that's
Oh, that retiring early is lazy?
Yes.
Yes.
And that you have, you do have a contribution that you owe society, and especially at our age, we have to give back. And there's lots of ways of giving back, and I think not everybody sees the ways that we're doing it, and it may not be transactional.
Is that triggering for you?
It's a little triggering for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to say as you get ready here? I'm excited for you. I'm counting down the days. You're not counting down the days.
I'm excited. I have a lot of, I'm cleaning my office out.
Okay.
So I think
what does that look like?
It's kind of a mess. And I have I inherited actually a lot of old data from a time when people weren't putting all of their data into a computer or a database. And so I'm having to throw away, I'm actually holding in my hands the work of people who have retired before me, many of whom retired worked until they were 65 or 70. And I have volumes of their handwritten notes in these notebooks. And I open it up and it's a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
And it's someone else's work that I'm holding in my hands, and I'm making the decision that we don't need this information anymore. It's been passed around from person to person. It ended out in my hands. We've got everything we need from it, and the rest of it goes into the garbage. And it's physically taking, that is a record of someone's life and work, and I'm throwing it in the recycling bin. And I'm doing it to myself too, but I don't know why I feel it more viscerally when I'm holding somebody else's.
Yeah.
And when everything's digital too, it's you don't have to throw it in the recycling bin, you have it. So, and I have been archiving stuff, and I see really old data, and I'm I know I'm never going to look at this again. why am I even taking up space, in digital storage, to keep it. I should just delete it. But it's hard to do.
It's a physical manifestation of how someone's life's work looks so inconsequential.
I know, it's fleeting.
It's so fleeting. And I think it's a great reminder. It's a great way to close this talk. We make this decision every day, what to do with our time. And we only get so much of it.
Yeah.
And do you want to put it into something like that? Do you want to put all of your time into something like that? Is a decision we make. I know it's easy to be kind of passively excited for you and count down the days, but I can see why you're not doing it. And I always thought of myself as someone who would have been like, yes, like, and maybe I was counting down the days with like not working with clients kind of thing, but to walk away from something that you've created with your own hands and your own brain, and to just walk away from that, really hard. Really hard. Yeah.
But it's exciting too.
It's exciting too. Yeah. Graduate. We have to start using the term graduate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like it.
Excited.
Me too.
When should we talk next? In the period of hedonism?
I don't know.
Or we're not going to talk then.
I don't know what's going to happen. You might have to pick me up off the floor at some point.
Is it going to be that much of a blowout?
I don't know. No, I just mean like when it really hits me. I'm not sure all of this has really hit me.
Yes.
I think I'm gradually
I feel that, yeah.
moving through it and accepting all the different emotions that come along with it. But I don't think the full, meaning of all of it or the full weight of it has hit me totally yet. So maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Cheers. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Maybe I'll talk to you in like 30 seconds.
I don't
know how to close this.
I would like to have a beer and some pretzels.
Me too.